The atmosphere in the studio was unusually tense even before the cameras began to roll. There was a subtle electricity in the air, not the kind sparked by excitement, but the kind that usually precedes a storm. Elon Musk was seated comfortably, a picture of modern ambition wrapped in casual billionaire indifference. His hands rested on his lap, his face wearing a smirk that looked custom-made for boardrooms and mass presentations. Across from him sat Jasmine Crockett, poised, razor-focused, and carrying the full weight of a country slowly waking up to the implications of unchecked tech dominance. The show's producers probably expected a lively discussion about innovation and ethics. What they got instead was a political reckoning dressed as a live interview. As the cameras started, the moderator laid out the stakes: artificial intelligence and its rising role in American life. A subject both thrilling and terrifying, depending on who was holding the microphone or writing the algorithms. Elon Musk, as usual, led with a visionary tone. He talked about how AI could enhance every aspect of human life, from medicine to education, from climate models to economic forecasts. He described AI as the next evolutionary step for intelligence, a necessary leap if humanity was to survive long-term threats, including pandemics, climate collapse, and resource scarcity. On paper, it sounded noble. In Musk's mouth, it sounded inevitable. But Jasmine Crockett wasn't there to admire the PowerPoint slides. She sat in silence until it was her turn, then leaned into the mic, and without any theatrics or grand gestures, dropped the kind of truth that doesn't need amplification. You're not talking about evolution, Mr. Musk. You're talking about domination. You've built an empire of code, and now you want to be the emperor of everything else. It wasn't a job, it was an indictment. And from that moment forward, the tone of the discussion shifted irreversibly. Crockett began outlining real-world examples. AI-powered hiring tools that consistently filtered out applicants based on racial and gender bias. Predictive policing models that disproportionately flagged minority communities. Automated healthcare systems that deprioritized treatment based on cost efficiency rather than human dignity. You call that progress? She asked, eyes locked on Musk. Elon tried to counter with statistics. He cited improvements in AI diagnostic tools, their potential to revolutionize cancer treatment, their ability to scan entire populations for early signs of disease. He spoke of efficiency, of reaching underserved communities through automation. But Crockett, never one to be impressed by theoretical utopias, pushed back hard. Efficiency isn't compassion, and technology without empathy is just a weapon disguised as convenience. The studio grew colder. Metaphorically speaking, Musk's carefully curated charisma was beginning to crack. He attempted to reframe the issue by pointing fingers at government inefficiency, at regulatory gridlock, at overseas tech races. If we don't lead, he said, others will. China won't stop. Russia won't stop. We need to move fast, or we lose. Crockett, undeterred, scoffed. You want to frame this like a Cold War, but it's not country versus country. It's profit versus people. The race you're running is toward monopolizing human behavior, and you want applause for it. Musk blinked. That pause, even if only a second, said more than any statement he'd made all night. Crockett wasn't just debating him. She was undressing the mythos surrounding him, the idea that technological advancement automatically equates to social progress. She went further, detailing how companies like Musk's profit from ambiguity, pushing products before the public can understand them, burying warnings in footnotes and spinning dystopia as design. She referenced recent reports of Tesla's AI-driven autopilot malfunctions, lawsuits involving algorithmic discrimination, and internal memos showing how automation decisions prioritized market growth over human risk. You're not a futurist, she said. You're a capitalist with a god complex. The audience gasped, not because it was offensive, but because it was undeniably accurate. Even those who admired Musk's innovations had to admit that his vision often excluded the very people it claimed to empower. And here was Crockett, unafraid to say it out loud, on live television, directly to his face. The moderator tried to steer the conversation back to policy, asking how Congress should regulate emerging technologies. But Crockett wasn't done. She launched into an impassioned call for democratic oversight, not just of AI, but of the infrastructure supporting it. You don't regulate the future by chasing it, she said. You regulate it by setting values that don't change just because the code does. She pushed for independent audits of algorithmic systems, mandatory transparency for AI decision-making, and public ownership of critical tech data. We don't let private companies control our water. Why are we letting them control our minds? Musk attempted to laugh it off, suggesting that Crockett didn't understand the technology deeply enough to weigh in on its nuances. It was a mistake. I don't need to know how to write Python to know when someone's using it to write policy. She shot back. That's your trick. You use complexity to kill accountability. You make it so dense no one questions it. But not today. That line, "you use complexity to kill accountability," went viral before the segment even ended. People across the country watched in real time as Musk's armor of invincibility cracked under the weight of Crockett's clarity. She wasn't talking in hypotheticals or future risks. She was speaking directly to the current landscape where AI was already making decisions in courtrooms, hospitals, hiring officers, and public schools. Decisions no one voted on, and few even understood. She recounted a case of a young student flagged by a school AI system as a potential threat based on vague behavioral metrics that were never disclosed to parents or teachers. You built a machine that makes decisions, but you gave it no soul, no context, no grace, she said. That's not safety, that's surveillance. Musk tried to redirect the conversation back to Mars colonization and humanity's destiny among the stars, but it fell flat. Crockett wasn't interested in interplanetary ambition when the problems right here on Earth were being ignored, exacerbated, or monetized. You keep talking about saving humanity, she said, but you never define it. Who counts? Who gets saved? Who gets replaced? She accused Musk of building systems that treat people as data points, predictable, malleable, disposable. You've turned disruption into religion. And like any bad religion, it demands faith without answers and punishes anyone who asks for proof. By now, the room was no longer split. The crowd wasn't just watching, they were witnessing a rare kind of public accountability, one that didn't come from a lawsuit or a leak, but from a voice brave enough to cut through the noise and name the danger. Not because she was anti-tech, but because she was pro-human. Musk grew defensive. He claimed critics like Crockett were anti-progress, that their caution would only slow down innovation and leave America vulnerable. Crockett responded with something unforgettable. You confuse speed with success, but a fast car on the wrong road still ends up in a ditch. She ended the segment with a warning, not just to Musk, but to all of us. The biggest threat isn't that AI will wake up and become smarter than us. It's that it will never wake up, and we'll start acting like it already has. That we'll hand it power, worship its outputs, and forget that no machine can feel the consequences of its decisions. Only we can. And by the time we realize that, it might be too late. The show wrapped, but the story didn't end. The clip of Crockett's takedown exploded online. Political leaders, tech ethicists, activists, and citizens began sharing it, analyzing it, using it to demand change. For once, the narrative wasn't about how AI would change everything. It was about how we could stop it from changing the wrong things. In the weeks that followed, new conversations erupted in Congress. Lawmakers began proposing bills requiring algorithmic transparency and public input on AI implementation. Journalists revisited long-ignored stories of AI abuse and automation's impact on marginalized communities. Activists called for a digital bill of rights. And through it all, Jasmine Crockett's voice was the spark that lit the fire. Elon Musk, for all his influence, found himself on the defensive. Press tours were cancelled. Investors asked questions. Employees leaked concerns. The myth of the all-knowing innovator began to fracture under the spotlight of genuine accountability. Crockett didn't destroy him, she exposed him. She made it clear that no amount of money, no genius IQ, no interplanetary ambition gives anyone the right to reshape society without consent. And maybe that's the most powerful part of this story. It's not that Crockett won a debate. It's that she showed the public we don't have to accept a future we didn't choose. That democracy isn't just about votes, it's about voice. And sometimes, one clear, fearless voice is enough to wake a nation. So if you're watching this and thinking the future feels like something happening to you rather than for you, don't stay silent. Don't scroll past. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because the only way to stop power from writing the script is to speak louder than the algorithm. And we're just getting started.